All right, we're live.
Perfect.
Matthew Marister,
Yes, sir.
how's Ohio? You guys all bugged in and
Beautiful.
ready to go?
Yeah.
Ready for the long haul?
I hope it's not a long haul. I hope not. But yeah, we're all good. I just got back from. I had to run out to Walmart and I got some groceries and stuff. And there was, I mean, it wasn't packed, full of stuff, but there was still a decent amount of stuff and few people were there. But it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, we create our own reality, I think, as a society, and this is extremely one of those evident moments where I think about all the things our country's been through, in the last 100, 200 years, and never before have we felt like it was necessary to tell everyone they had to stay home before.
Right.
Not during the Cold War, but yes, COVID-19.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I remember growing up and being scared of like Russian nuclear, war and everything, and having like little fallout shelters and stuff. But this is kind of different.
Yeah. Yep. That's right. Yeah. We don't train our kids to get under desks anymore. Just tell them to stay home.
Right.
It's all good. All right, welcome everyone to our live broadcast today of episode 401 of the Concealed Carry podcast. We're going to begin the recording here momentarily, but thank you for being here with us. We assume that a larger percentage than normal of our audience is probably sitting near a computer or available to do so, working from home or something along those lines. And so we're glad you're here, and we hope that you're having a productive and safe day. I am getting to the spot. I can see everyone's comments. Gunnar, good afternoon. Mark says you look young, Matt. I don't know what you did that made you look young, but
I groomed myself. Maybe, I don't know.
That must have been it. Okay, well, we're going to have a good time today. We're going to get through this, and today we're going to be talking about bugging in, broadly speaking. We'll probably touch on a couple of prepper-like things, but we're going to be specifically kind of focused on home defense and what it looks like, some specific thoughts or tips or ideas along those lines. So there you have it. Mark is commenting, you were around during this Cold War. Yes, Matthew was around during the Cold War. Brad, welcome. Thanks for being here. Okay. Fantastic. I think we're ready. I mean, should we get this show on the road, Matthew?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I don't feel the need to drudge on for like 15 minutes before we start recording like Riley does.
Right.
Okay. Let's do this. All right, here we go in 3, 2, 1. This is the Concealed Carry podcast, episode 401. Welcome to the Concealed Carry podcast, part of the concealedcarry.com network. A network consisting now of 4 podcasts. You can learn more about those at podcasts.concealedcarry.com. I am your substitute host, Jacob Paulson. I am joined today by co-host Matthew Marister.
How are you doing, Jacob?
I'm not bad. Yeah, the lights are on, the water's running. I figure that's the good sign right now.
It's crazy when you ask people how you're doing, and it's like normally there's people give you an answer, but now it's just like everybody's like, I don't know, like I'm just stuck in my house. I don't know how I'm doing. I guess it's good.
That's right. So today we're going to be discussing bugging in, whether or not we're really prepared for the being quarantined, I guess, in the home or other things that might happen in the future. And kind of really going through some thoughts specific to home defense and other prepper type related survival considerations. It's going to be fun. But first, word from our sponsors. I guess I'd have to know who our sponsors are. I'm just joking. Oh, wait, I know one of them. Today's episode is brought to you by our Home Defense Conference, our 2020 conference. Now, let me tell you a little bit about what this is. As a company, we are looking at all the things going on out there. Certainly, small businesses are struggling. We're a small business. We're trying to keep it going, keep paying our people, even though the government doesn't want anyone to work and wants us all to go home and no one wants to buy anything and all those kinds of things. But we're doing our best, and we're looking at all of you and looking at what you're going through. Many of our listeners have lost their jobs. They no longer have work, or they're working from home, or they have to do more with less. And we're trying to decide how to support our people. out there, the concealed carry community. And so we decided as a company to do this home defense conference. It starts on Thursday of this week, March 26th. And what the conference effectively is a 6 days of free content about home defense. We are pulling video content from our complete home defense course, which is a course we filmed back in late 2018. And we're sharing portions of that course for free over a 6-day period starting this week on March 26th. You can learn more about that at concealedcarry.com/HDC for home defense course. Concealedcarry.com/HDC. You can get registered. It's 100% free. And like I said, over the course of 6 days, we will share 3 videos a day for a total 18 videos about various topics from fatal funnels and clearing rooms and retention and all sorts of cool stuff. It's good content.
Very good content.
Comment here who's from Corey Allen, who's viewing live. He says, I have the complete home defense course and it's awesome. So thank you, Corey, for that little testimonial. Brett Johnson says, looking forward to the home defense conference. We appreciate Brett, you being registered, and it's going to be a great time. Our other sponsor today is concealedcarry.com. I don't know if you've ever heard of those guys, Matthew.
I haven't.
Yeah.
You have to fill me in on that.
They're kind of new on the block, concealedcarry.com. They're a small business based out of Colorado. And somehow these guys, I mean, they seem like decently intelligent, but I don't know how they pulled off getting the domain concealedcarry.com, but it makes them sound pretty legit. And their website's got all sorts of information and tools and articles and videos, and they have podcasts, and they have a store where you can buy stuff and they ship it to you.
Yeah, all the stuff that you're going to be seeing in this conference, as far as the video content, the training, and all the cool gadgets and stuff that we use for dry fire and stuff. We sell a lot of that stuff on the page because we want to be that one-stop shop for not only training but for your products that you want to buy, and be able to go to a place and be confident that you're not going to get junk. Like we vet the stuff, we test it, and we use this stuff ourselves. So it's important that we are able to do that whole one-stop shop for concealed carry and self-defense. Yep.
I know many of the people who are listening are economically more strapped than ever. I'm seeing comments right now from people who are participating who are laid off and don't have work. But many of you are not affected as economically, and certainly we appreciate your support, both in the past that you've given, any current support, and future support for many of those of you who may place an order at concealedcarry.com/shop. You can browse between 500 and 600 products that we have for sale, probably about 50 of which are our own products that we make, manufacture, or have manufactured on our behalf. And then hundreds of other products that are industry standard, well-recognized name brand products that we also sell and ship out. I've noticed a significant increase over the last week or so on holsters, probably from all these new gun buyers everyone's talking about. But we sell holsters, I think, for like 14 name brands, from 1791 Gun Leather to Crossbreed to Stealth Gear to Keepers Concealment and many, many others. Check out all of the products we have for sale right now at concealedcarry.com/shop. And quickly to answer the question from Mark here on Facebook, no, we do not sell toilet paper. Though I did see, I got an email ad from, I think, Black Rain Ordnance, and they were running a special deal: buy one roll of toilet paper for $900, get a free rifle. So, there you go, Mark. You could buy toilet paper from Black Rain Ordnance, apparently, and you get a free rifle when you do so. Okay, so Matthew.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about this whole bugging in thing. So a couple of thoughts. Let's start with the very firearm related home defense stuff. When the topic home defense comes to your mind, what are some things that that are your first thoughts when you think about defending the cat or fortifying the castle?
Yeah, wow, it's such a huge topic, right? So it can be overwhelming, but I think the first thing to do if you're going to defend the home is to make sure that we can talk about guns and hideouts and fatal funnels and all kinds of stuff, but just making sure that your home, like you're locking the doors, or I know my parents, I don't know how long they went, and their sliding glass door didn't have a lock on it, and I kept bugging them, and finally I went up there and I fixed it. But like just stuff like that, like maybe there's a light out over over your porch, or the lock on the window doesn't quite lock, or whatever it is. You don't have a peephole, right? Simple stuff like that. It's the fortification of the outside and making sure that stuff, trees and bushes aren't overgrown in front of your windows, those types of things that go a long way to just dissuading people from actually wanting to potentially try to break into your home, whether it's to commit a home invasion robbery or to steal toilet paper or food or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm. In a normal scenario where we don't have, pandemics and quarantine orders from governors and things, on a normal year, according to FBI or Department of Justice, 1 in 34 households in America experience a break-in. 1 in 34, that doesn't sound like good odds. And I realize that's an average, and some neighborhoods are better than others and whatever else, but I think of it kind of the way you're describing it, Matthew, almost like a bullseye target, where I got like these outer circles of protection, and then we get closer and closer to the core. And that outer circle is sort of that, I'll call it perception. The criminals got to drive down the street of my neighborhood, and I need them to look at my house and say, not that one. I want them to pick my neighbors. Nothing against my neighbors, but I need to be a more difficult victim than the next. And so I think of that outer layer, and those are the things like you talked about, like, having good landscaping, looking like it's occupied, having good lighting if it's dark outside, those kinds of things. Big dogs that bark a lot, or a sign that says I have big dogs, or whatever, all those little things. And then you get to that next layer of protection, which what I think what you were focused on is that kind of, the actual barricade, preventing unwanted people out, having reinforced doors, having the ability to see who's at the door before I open it by having the peephole, or by having the doorbell camera, or whatever tool or asset might be there. And then, you kind of bring it in another layer, and it's like, okay, well, if someone does break in, what now? Understanding my lanes of fire, understanding over penetration, designating safe rooms, and having specific response plans that the whole family knows how to activate and how to operate on. Those are all things that I think of when I think about kind of this layered approach to home defense.
Yeah, and I'll expand on that even more, or I want to make the point of that. A lot of the home burglaries, right? People would be at work regularly, right? They happen during the day. People aren't home. Well, now everybody's home, so the chance of that home burglary turning into a home invasion now is elevated because everybody's stuck at home, or the dynamics of who's in your home is different. Maybe you do work from home, but your wife doesn't, or vice versa. And now everybody's home, or your kid's home from school. So I think the way we go about kind of our home security routine, if you will, is definitely needs to be recalibrated or looked upon differently now, with who's at home, and the fact that my buddy just the other night, his restaurant, he owns a restaurant, and it got broken into, and they took the money, cash, register, bottles of alcohol, anything they could get. Now I know that's not residential, but provided this thing goes on and on and on, depending on where you live or what's going on, it's not a stretch to think that people won't start going to residences to get what they need or what they want, really. And so I think we have to definitely look at how we're structuring our security at home.
Yep. All right. So tip one from Matthew and I think is I'm going to, what you already said, which is, think about the appearance of the home and lock down the home. Have reinforced doors, have locks on the doors, have peepholes, use the locks on the doors, do what is necessary there. Here's my second tip, that I think I find is we're not going to do like a 20 tips here, guys. It's going to be a short list of ideas. But my second thing I find that is most often neglected is the idea of a safe room. When you buy a home and you move in, or you rent a home and you move in, it doesn't come with a safe room. And I'm certainly not talking about a panic room. Like I see this vision in my mind in some movie where there's like steel plated, like barricaded room, and there's cameras in there, and like that'd be cool if you got that. Like, I'm super jealous. What I mean is simply a place that you can retreat to and that from that position, you're in a fortified position that you can more readily and easily defend, and that it might have some of the tools and assets that one might need to persevere in that fortified position. So Matthew, along that line of safe rooms, what are some things that might be in a safe room, or how might someone think about where to have a safe room in the home?
Yeah, and it might not be, you might have a secondary position, right? I'm not talking about like a battlefield. I'm talking about a secondary position in your home based on, where you are at that time. So depending on how many levels, if you have a basement or whatnot, where your kids' room is compared to where you are and those types of things. But typically we would go to a place where we can kind of dictate what's going on, where our family is in the room with us, right? We either go to the kids' room, or maybe there's a protocol where we grab the kids and we go to a specific spot of the house. And ideally we'd have a couple things. We'd have, a firearm stage there, and ideally you'd have extra ammunition. We're not talking about, bandoliers of ammunition, but you'd have maybe a few more magazines than what you would just typically carry. You'd have a phone, right? So maybe a charging phone that's there that you can call 911. Maybe you don't have your phone in your pocket while you run and your phone's out and now you can't call 911, right? So that would be ideal. Maybe some medical gear. And it would be basically in a position where you can kind of, like I said, dictate if somebody's coming into my home, maybe they have to walk down a hallway to get to me, right? Or I can be able to see them entering the room before they would be able to see where we are. Positioning furniture in such a way where if I do end up firing rounds, they're not going to go through the window, but rather the backstop would be, furniture or interior walls of my home. So different things, thinking about how to position your family in that instance, so you're not trying to do it on the fly.
Yeah, great ideas here. So you talked about having arguably maybe multiple safe rooms, or kind of a option A, B, C kind of idea, having an armed response there. Maybe it's an additional firearm or additional ammunition, probably a good flashlight. You talked about medical gear, you talked about a phone, and that doesn't even have to be a phone that's in service. You can take any old phone, stick it permanently on a charger, and it'll dial 911. So that tends to work really well. You talked about, ideally this being kind of through a choke point or a fatal funnel, something that I'm forcing the BG to go through that, gives me the opportunity to be able to respond while they're still blind. And obviously a fortified position that ideally, prevents bullet penetration and protects those inside. I think body armor is another thing I might think about. If I wake up and I hear a little bump in the night, I don't throw on my body armor. Sorry to burst anyone's bubble, but if we do have to retreat to a safe room, if I have the opportunity to retreat to a safe room, and I know at this point I got an active threat, like the body armor is going on for sure, and I don't have enough for the whole family, but I do have some options, and we're going to do our best to fortify that position. So those are some good thoughts. I like what we said here about the safe room. Another comment here from Matthew, who's watching, that the safe room should also have the ability to evacuate to the outside in case. My opinion. I think there's a couple ways to think about that. One is that if you have to fortify the safe room for multiple entry or exit points, that makes it more challenging as opposed to having only one entry point. But also that means you can't escape, right? It's except through that single point. So it might change some things. If it's on an upper level, then a window, it is probably not an entry point I have to fortify against, but it is a potential exit if I have like an escape ladder. And so we keep escape ladders in every single room in the upstairs of my house for that reason. So I think you have to balance all those potential things and think through them. Let's talk about weapons, Matthew. Is this the good old pump my shotgun situation?
Okay, and like anything else, this is my opinion, right? Like you may have a different opinion, Jacob, the listeners, and you guys might have a different opinion. My opinion, I think the shotgun is a viable option, right? But I've said it before on the show here and there. Think about who's going to be using this firearm, because not everybody wants to shoot a shotgun. And if you have your wife who's scared of a shotgun, or your, 13-year-old kid who's scared to shoot a shotgun, then having a shotgun for your home defense gun is probably not ideal. Although it may be a very good close quarters type firearm, because it does transfer a lot of kinetic energy into the body, right? So, but I think overall, if I was going to go with a generic, I don't want to say like one size fits all type gun, but if I was going to say, most of the time, if you go with like an AR pistol or, an AR, you're probably going to be able to, your 13-year-old kid will be able to shoot it. Your wife will be able to shoot it well, even if they don't train with it. You have higher capacity magazines. You can equip it with a tack light or with a red dot if you want. Adjustable stocks, it can fold up. It's small, right? So these types of things, and when we're talking about over penetration, you can get self-defense ammunition, 5.56, 223 ammunition, frangible ammunition that really doesn't have any more penetrating ability further than your shotgun slug round or your 45 ACP 1911. So I think if in a perfect, or in if I was just going to say in general what gun would be best for home defense, I would go with an AR. Probably second choice would be like a full size duty size pistol handgun.
Yeah, I mean, I think to each their own to some degree. Like you said, everybody's welcome to have their own opinion. I do think sometimes those opinions are based on outright false ideas. One of those false ideas is the sense that certain shotgun loads don't penetrate like other rounds do out of a handgun or out of a carbine. And I can tell you that's really a pretty false idea. And in fact, during the home defense conference, if you haven't already registered, go to concealedcarry.com/HDC to register now. During the conference, one of the videos that we're going to be sharing it's on day 2. This video will be released on March 27th. It's called Over Penetration and Penetrating Through Drywall Doors and Windows. And it's a real life test. That video is like 45 minutes long. That kind of shows you what it looks like. And we fire everything from 22 to 12 gauge and bird shot and this shot and the other shot and all sorts of stuff. And we do tests through like 6 layers of drywall, also at an angle, because, at an angle you might hit studs and things like that. And I think you'd be surprised to find out that basically everything penetrates more than you think. So if that's your reasoning for using the shotgun, I don't think that's a good enough reason on its own. Now there is something to be said about higher velocity and some things like that, but ultimately you want the tool that's here's my 2 cents. You want the tool that's most effective at getting the job done, and then the potential things that you have to mitigate in terms of risk, like penetration. Those are things you got to train. Those are things you got to figure out. But ultimately, I want to make sure I get the job done while I mitigate those risks. And so a carbine is a pretty efficient tool. An AR pistol, obviously a little bit more maneuverable in a tighter space. And so you mentioned that as a very, as a strong option. Generally, the longer the barrel of a firearm, the higher the velocity of that round. To some degree, that could be good, right? Higher velocity sometimes is a good thing. It also tends to make it more accurate. So accuracy should not be our limiting factor in a home defense scenario where we're probably not fighting it more than, I can't imagine a situation in my house where I'm shooting it more than, 15 yards would be like my max potential distance in my home, maybe 20, but probably I'm inside of 10 yards. So probably inside of like 5 yards, frankly. So I think that those are all valid considerations. So when we talk about carbine, you mentioned AR several times, but I think it's worth making sure we don't neglect to mention PCCs, a pistol caliber carbine.
Sure.
I think that those are all viable options. One thing I will say about a carbine is that it's also easier to have accessories, right? It's easier for me to put on a light or potentially a laser or all those other things. Whereas mounting some of those things on a shotgun could be a challenge depending on the shotgun, and on a handgun certainly I can do some of those things as well, but there's some limiting factors. One argument in favor of the handgun is that it allows me to kind of really manage the firearm well one-handed while I have a handheld light in the other hand. And that's something that's pretty challenging to do with a carbine. In a carbine scenario, or with a shotgun for that matter, I can't really, one-handed be ready to fire with the weapon and also be operating a handheld light with the other. I can I can certainly run a handheld light with the carbine or with the shotgun, but I'm going to be muzzling anything I point that light at when I do that. So that's one argument in favor of the handgun. We could go down a rabbit hole on this one, guys, and there's a lot of good comments here from those of you who are attending live. What I definitely could tell you is that don't get tied up into dogmatic, kind of industry standard or assumed industry standard ideas about weapons and firearms and ammunition, and look for those videos. I know we have 2 videos in the home defense conference about this. One, like I said, about penetration through drywall and things like that. And we have another video that's specifically about ammunition choice. So look for those. Okay. One other thought I think about home defense, and then we're going to kind of turn a corner on our show today. But let's discuss, Matthew. I had it in my head, and now I've just it's gone. I had one other really I remember what I was thinking. I want to talk a little bit about tactics and communication as a team. I think there's a tendency to kind of have a response plan of sorts in our mind and plan to employ that. But when there's other people in the house, you have children, I have children. Some people might be empty nesters, but you have a spouse in the home, or maybe you have roommates. What are some things or a piece of advice we might give someone who doesn't live alone, and especially given that right now, more likely more of us are quarantined, and we got bigger the whole family at the house.
Yeah, maybe you have an elderly, grandparent staying with you, or people, you might be roommates, right? And typically you guys, your schedules don't overlap, and now you guys are stuck. I think, as far as if you have somebody new in your home, or, those dynamics of your roommate being there, you definitely have to be on the same page, because communication, I think probably everybody who's listening right now is probably taken additional training classes and feels confident in their abilities, right? Sure, we can all get better and everything, but you probably feel good that given a situation, I can probably handle it. And I think that's you should have confidence. We don't want to be overconfident, but the reality is that person may not rely on you, right? Like they may, but they may think that themselves as well. Like, I can handle this. And now you have 2 people that are kind of not coordinated, and somebody's saying, hey, let's go this way. Let's get to the safe area. And the other person's like, no, I'm going this way. Like I feel, and that can kind of happen when, even, husband, wives, I'm not saying, that, you guys train together, because a lot of husband and wives probably don't, but we have to understand that there has to be some sort of command control type thing. And I'm not talking about like, a pecking order or a chain of command. I'm talking about if something happens, somebody has to kind of be the lead in that role, at least to understand, so we can say, hey, you call 911. So it's not like, no, I'm going to get the gun, you call 911, and then we're fighting over who's supposed to do what. So I think kind of talking those things out might help beforehand to kind of say, hey, look, if something happens and we're both home, I'm going to grab the firearm. I want you to call 911. Are you comfortable doing that? And if they say, yeah, that's great. Now, if something happens to me, are you comfortable with getting the firearm and doing this? Now, if something happens, are you comfortable putting a tourniquet on or doing, because I don't want to have to, put down the gun and put a tourniquet on you if somebody's in the home, right? So getting through those kind of like, what do you know? What don't you know? I think that can clear up a lot of miscommunication when an incident happens.
Yeah, so we've already been taught 2 principles by Matthew today. The first one is that predetermining some things like who's the lead is important. I mean, Riley, you're not Riley, you're Matthew. Matthew, as a police officer, when you responded to an incident, did one of the officers take the lead?
Yeah, there was always a contact officer and a cover officer, and you kind of knew that, right? Like you show up on scene, and that's that contact officer's, he's taking point, he's talking to the people. You're specifically there to cover that officer off, because if you start interjecting, now you're attention's diverted, right? And so everybody kind of has a role. Now, if that officer, something happens, obviously it becomes fluid, right? The situation's fluid, sure. But you kind of have an expectation of like, okay, when somebody comes, when my wife's here, and I have the firearm, she knows, okay, I'm going to call 911. I don't necessarily have to tell her or something like that, right? Yep. So we kind of know our roles, knowing that everything can be fluid, right? But we kind of know basic roles.
I asked that question because I think it's important to note that this isn't about who's better at what, or who's cooler or awesomer or more. This is purely about reducing chaos means having a plan. And so even two well-trained cops going into the heat of something know that someone's got to be the contact officer, right? So in a similar situation, for a similar reason, I think that's the first thing you taught us, is that someone's got to take the lead. Someone's got to be in charge, at least initially, and to the best of the ability. And the second thing you taught us about team tactics is the importance of communication. I tend to find that there's this kind of sense among people that in a home defense situation, I never want to give away my position. I don't want to turn on a light. I don't want to call out. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to make any noise because they're going to know where I am. There's some validity to that. But what's worse than them knowing your position? Your spouse not knowing your position, mm-hmm. or your kids not knowing that they're not supposed to walk through that doorway right now. So communication is of the utmost importance, and shouting things out to be sure that you're heard is critical, even if it means the other person hears it. That's not a problem for me. I'm out calling 911. Am I concerned if the BG hears that I'm bowing out to call 911? Why my cover is taking the position of fortitude, and I'm stepping out of the fight to make that phone call? No, I don't care if they hear me say that. Frankly, I hope they do hear me say that I'm calling 911. And when I get back in, I say back in, or I communicate something like whatever it is I say to communicate I'm back in the fight. Am I concerned that they're going to hear that? No, I'm not concerned. But I am really concerned that the person I'm working with knows I'm back in the fight. So those key considerations relative to communication, I think, is a really valid thing that you've taught us, Matthew. I really appreciate that. One other thought I would have, I guess, about team tactics or working with all the occupants of your home is that you can't have a response plan that's going to work in every situation if that response plan is based on specific actions. Right. Now you just don't do that. What you can do is you can have a response plan that's based on some principles. For example, a principle might be arm yourself. That's a principle. You seek a place of fortification. That's a principle, right? Escape if possible. If not, do this. Like those are principles that can be generally applied. So I think it's really important if you don't already have a response plan for your home, you need to build one that's based on these principles. That's based really clearly on these are the things we're going to endeavor to do in this order. In our course, we have a thing called the 5 elements of home defense, and we kind of go through what those 5 things are in that order. But you can build whatever principle-based response plan you want. And then what I think is helpful, and this is kind of where I was getting, is to create scenarios, fictitious scenarios, and run a drill based on your response plan. So my response plan might be escape if able, if not, get armed and fortify. Right. That might be my response plan for just to keep it really simple. Okay. Well then, okay, great. Let's run a drill. The drill is we're all asleep in our beds, and mom wakes up and hears something because dad doesn't. Not in our house. I sleep through anything, and she elbows me in the gut and says, "I think someone's in the home." That's our scenario. Everybody, go, set, go. Okay. Well, our principle is, escape if able. Are any of us able to escape safely? No, because we're up, whatever. Okay, well then let's all, and we go through and we work through some of those things. And in a drill, you hit the chaos. You get the stuff. It's like, well, I didn't know what to do because of this. It's like, well, let's stop and talk about that, right? So I think you need to have a response plan that's very principle based, and then you need to run drills. And running drills for me is one of the most therapeutic things we do as a family in this conversation, because it allows my children who are relatively young to feel very confident. They feel prepared. They feel like they know they feel like their dad's going to take care of them. Their mom is going to take care of them. And it also gives us some sense of, what may happen in our home may not be the thing that it's a very specific scenario we practiced and we played out, but we still know what we're going to do relative to the response plan.
Yeah, totally agree. and Tristan in the comments kind of commented with that same philosophy. Is he says if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, and I think that really puts phrases it well, because you just, if you're ready, then you don't have to like reinvent everything, get everything going. And we're not saying be paranoid in your home, please. There's enough anxiety in the world right now. We're not saying, keep your blinds pulled, just peek out. We're not, I hope you're not getting the impression that we're saying, you have to live with maximum anxiety levels. I think what we're saying is that if you are ready, or if you do these things beforehand, then you won't have to be so anxious, because you'll have that confidence that we're ready as a family. If there's a fire, or if somebody does come in the home or whatnot.
Yeah, precisely. All right, before we transition a little bit here, I do want to just share quickly the titles of the 18 videos that we're going to share during the Home Defense Conference. If you're not already registered, go to concealedcarry.com/HDC and register right now, so you can get free access to these 18 videos that we're going to be releasing over the course of the 6 days, March 26th through March 31st. Bear in mind that these videos do expire after 48 hours. So the videos that will be released on March 26th, you can only watch them on the 26th and 27th. By the 28th, they will have expired. So you've got to pretty much log in roughly every day if you want to see all the free video content. All right, here are the videos. I'm just going to run through these real quick, Matthew. On day one, starting March 26th, okay, you will get access to a video called Physical Security Inside the Home, another video called Who's at the Door, and it's a reenactment. It's an actual scenario based on a news story that we play out, a video called What Kind of Ammunition. On day two, which is March 27th, you'll get access to the following 3 videos: the 5 fundamentals of home defense, which I referenced earlier, over penetration and penetrating through drywall, doors, and windows, which I also referenced, and a third one called Cover and Concealment in the Home. On day 3, which is March 28th, you'll get access to the following 3 videos: Safe Rooms, Tools and Strategies, IFDR, if you don't know what that is, you haven't been watching our podcast for too long, and number 3, Answering the Door and Dealing with Strangers. On day 4 of the conference, which is March 29th, you'll get access to the following 3 videos: Fatal Funnels and Stairs, Low Light Handheld versus Weapon Mounted, and Home-Based Dry Fire Practice. On day 5 of the conference, you're going to get access to the following 3 videos. This would be March 30th. Staging the Firearms and Storage, the Bump in the Night Scenario, that's also a reenactment based on a real-life news story, and Placing the 911 Call. On day 6, March 31st, the following 3 videos will be made available in the conference. Number 1, Retention Techniques. This is Riley's favorite video, just a little hint there. It's pretty cool. Number 2, Ambush at the Door, also a scenario, a reenactment based on a real-life situation. And number 3, Team Tactics. So those are the 18 videos that will be made available during the conference. Make sure you get in there and you get registered again at concealedcarry.com/HDC. For those of you who have already purchased our complete home defense course, and there are thousands of you who have done so, do you want, or would it still be worth your time to go register for this conference? Well, you already have access to not only the 18 videos that will be released in this course, but an additional like 30-something videos that make up the full course that we produced and we've been selling since 2018. So there won't be any new content for you in this conference, but I would encourage you, if you have already bought our complete home defense course, to go. This is a good time to go and rewatch that content and go through it again. And if you're anything like me, and I'm the one, I'm one of the instructors in the course, but if you're anything like me, when you go through it, you'll be reminded of things that you either stopped doing that you should be doing, or that you meant to do that you never got to, or other things. So I would encourage you to go through that content again if it's been a while.
Yeah, or grab the family members who haven't, didn't watch it with you,
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah. I mean, if you bought it, if you have online access to the streaming, great. Like cast that sucker to the TV or put the computer up and have everybody watch it together. Or if you ordered our DVDs, it's available on a 3 DVD disc set. You can pop that in and watch it, assuming you still have a DVD player. Okay. Let's transition a little bit. Here's what we're going to do. I'm putting Matthew on the spot. He's not prepared for this.
Uh-oh.
But I want, each of us is going to give 2 prepper tips. All right, so there'll be 4 total, 2 prep, and things that you should do to be prepared to bug in have nothing to do with guns or home defense. I'm going to go first so that Matthew has more time to think about it and talk. And ponder. Okay. So the there's all the normal, like I'm really tempted to go with some of like the core standards, like you should have food storage. If you don't now, you're kind of screwed. Good luck getting some. You should have already had it. And water's important too. So I'm really tempted to talk about water, but here's going to be my number one. My number one tip that I'm going to share today is go buy a ham radio. Now stick with me. A ham radio is a radio that requires a license to transmit on. You have to have a license given to you from the federal government to be able to legally transmit on a ham radio. This license is not too difficult to obtain. And when I took the test in 2015 to obtain that license, and I just downloaded some app that was free to my phone that had like flashcards of all the questions. And I just like studied those for like 4 days. And then I walked in and aced the test and got the license. So it's not rocket science. However, without the license, I still think you should have a ham radio. And a couple reasons why. Number one, it is the number one communication tool if the grid goes down. Without question. If cellular and internet go down, the ham radio is it. It's not CB radio. CB radios have horrible distance options. Ham radio will be it. Worldwide, planet Earth will use the ham radio if other communication systems go down. So that's number one. Number two, no license is required to buy one and to listen. No license is required to just listen to anything on a ham radio. Number three, in an emergency, even if you don't have a license, it is legal to transmit. So if you have a legitimate, true emergency and you have no other means of communicating, even without a license, you can transmit on a ham radio. It's legal. It's okay. You're not going to, no one, the FCC is not coming after you. So even without a license, you should have a ham radio because in an emergency, you're allowed to transmit. And the fourth reason I think you should have a ham radio is because in an emergency, it's also a really good way to listen to very specific things. For example, a lot of us have like an emergency weather radio in our bug out bag or something like that. Well, I don't need an emergency weather radio because a ham radio also accesses those same frequencies. It also, via my ham, I can listen to most of my municipal frequencies, fire, police, the local high school, resource officer, the airport, all those kinds of things. So a ham radio is an amazing tool to be able to listen and monitor. And in an emergency, even without a license, you can transmit. You can get a basic handheld Baofeng, ham radio on Amazon for like $30 or $40. And I will put a link in the show notes of my favorite handheld ham radio. A handheld does not get great distance. They're usually pretty underpowered, 5 watts, and you got to be pretty close, but it's better than nothing. And it will definitely pick up the emergency weather service. Those transmissions are really strong. So that's my number one. Go get yourself a ham radio. And in due course, you should get the license to operate it.
Very interesting. That was good. I'm glad you kind of stuck with something that wasn't probably on a lot of people's radar.
Yeah, get the ham.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to keep with that same kind of thing that, everybody's probably beating the dead horse about water and food and all guns and knives and all kinds of stuff. I'm going to say one thing that, is really important that you might have overlooked is getting your medications. If you take medication, right? Let's say you take high blood pressure medication or something, or you're elderly and you have some sort of blood thinner medication or whatever it might be. That's probably critical for you to be healthy, even if you don't have coronavirus. So, right now, sure, we can order things on Amazon and get stuff, and the post office is still going, and the pharmacies are still open and stuff like that. But who knows? The worst thing that you would want to have happen is you not be able to get to the pharmacy and they don't have the medication you need, and so you have everything else. You're all planned for zombies and everything like that, but your blood pressure is going through the roof because you don't have your medication. So that would be one that I would say think about getting extended supply of your medication if you can. If you're getting it 30 days, maybe get a 90-day supply of stuff. That might be something that might go overlooked in some prepper circles or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, having a backup supply of the medication, that's critical.
Yeah. And maybe just even medications is just kind of like, your typical run of the mill Motrin, ibuprofen type stuff, right? Because
which is all sold out on Amazon right now, by the way. Good luck finding like any cold medicine.
Yeah. So maybe people are already doing that. I don't know.
Well, the problem is that's the point though, is that you should have done it before.
Exactly.
Right? That's the point, is that it's sold out on Amazon because so many people are not prepared. That's a great one. I like that, Matthew. All right.
Yeah. The other one I'm going to say, and you might have already done this, but I did this today because I had to go out of the house anyways, but fill up your cars with fuel. You know what I mean? Like gasoline is cheap right now. Of course, we're not rationing gasoline, and there's no prices through the roof or anything like that. But I know there have been times in our history as a country where gasoline was being rationed. So, if for whatever reason you have to drive somewhere, maybe you have to go, your relatives live in a different area and you got to go take care of them or something like that, and you can't, you don't have enough fuel in your vehicle. I think being able to be mobile would be definitely something advantageous. So even if you can't drive, you're working from home, fill up your tank and leave the car like that. So if need be, you guys are mobile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I dig that. Having a couple of gas cans, that you keep filled up, and when you are in an emergency scenario, not letting the tank get more than about half empty. That's our protocol right now in our home. When we hit half empty, we go fill up, and we don't normally do that. When all is well and dandy, we got some gas cans at the house. We can use those if needed. But I let my car run empty. Maybe that makes me a bad person, but right now I'm not. Right now it's like I hit half, go top it off.
Right.
That's what we're doing.
Right.
Okay, so one thought here, I guess my last, because I said we'd both share two. So, and again, it's hard for me to not talk about water. Water is just so critical. But here's another outside the box idea, solar. So obviously, residential solar is a big deal, but you can't, in an emergency, call up insert company name here, Tesla, and say, hey, can you come out to my house and install solar panels? That it's just too late now. So you might consider having residential solar, but a lot of times residential solar is wired in such a way as to not even work in an emergency. When the grid goes down, you can't. A lot of times the way different municipalities work, you can't store the power in a battery. So you can push to the grid if you have leftover, and then you can pull from the grid if your panels aren't generating enough, but there's no storage options. So that depends on the municipalities and the local laws. But if you're in a municipality where you can store and you get residential solar, you might consider paying extra or whatever's necessary to have a good battery pack so you can store the power. And if you are if you have residential solar right now and you didn't get the battery pack, you might be thinking about maybe you should have gotten the battery pack. Maybe you should go and install it. But I'm actually not talking about residential solar at all. I'm really talking about what I would call handheld solar. So in 2018, I think I had a little pet project. It was silly and it was fun and it was kind of dumb. But I bought on Amazon a solar panel. In fact, to be truthful, the first one I bought was not very good. So in the show notes, I'll put a link to the one I use now. But it's a kind of a little one of those little portable ones that kind of folds and you can stuff in a backpack or whatever. And this little solar panel is 24 watts of output. It has 3 USB ports, so you could charge up to 3 things at a time. Though it greatly reduces the amperage when you do that. I would always tell you to just charge one thing at a time. Anyway, in 2018, when I did this little pet project test, for 30 days, I powered all personal electronics from solar only. My phone, my headphones,
Wow.
Even like I have a little car vacuum that I bought that I could power from solar. I have a little lantern, it's a Goal Zero. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Batteries. So I had rechargeable AAA, AA's, and 9 volts and all that I was able to recharge via solar. And so my keyboard, my computer mouse, everything that I could run off of a battery or anything that I would consider personal electronic, I solely ran off of solar for 30 days. Now that's not life-changing, right? The house is cold. The furnace, I can't run the furnace off these little tiny solar panels, but it is a pretty effective tool for making sure that I can at least operate a personal electronic device. I can at least charge my ham radio, that I can at least, turn on whatever little thing that I might need to turn on that runs on AAA's or that runs on AA's or whatever it might be. And so I think having a little portable solar panel, and I'll add a portable charger to go with it. When I say portable charger, I'm thinking the things that you can buy everywhere that you would normally use to recharge your phone when it's dying. A good solid one of those, because what you want to do is during the daylight hours when it's really hot outside, you put out the solar panel and you recharge the portable charger, and you drive as much energy into that thing as you can. and then from that you charge your other devices as needed. So I know that this is kind of, it's not gonna save your house if the grid goes down to have a little portable solar panel, but it is something I can bug out with, and I can use if I bug in and the grid goes down for basic electronic needs to ensure that I'm not wholly without anything. And I'll add that having just a good backup supply of batteries in the house is a good idea too. AA's and AAA's and things like that, 9 volts, so that you can operate basic, simple electronics, and make sure, to my, what I said earlier, to connect with what I said, that I can at least charge my ham radio, and I have light. I'm a big fan of a company called Goal Zero. My favorite solar panels are not Goal Zero brand. I'll put a link to my favorite solar panels, but I also do like Goal Zero. They make a handful of things, and I'm quite fond of a Goal Zero lantern. I think it's called the Lighthouse 400 or something. I know that the number is 400, and it's a great lantern. You can hand crank to charge it. You can charge it from USB, therefore from solar, and it also has a USB port, so you can draw from the lantern's batteries to charge another device. It has a beacon red emergency light and a standard kind of lantern. It's kind of shaped and looks like a camping lantern, and it's a good way for me to ensure I always have light. If the grid goes down, this is a really solid quality lantern. And I can hand crank, or I can charge it from solar, because anything that you can charge that charges via USB, I can charge from solar. That's the way to correlate that. So consider that, guys. Little handheld solar panel is not going to cost you a fortune. You don't have to sign a 50-year contract with the solar company, but for $75, you can go get a quality portable solar panel. So that's my second one, Matthew.
Yeah, really good. I know you know a lot about solar power, because we talked about it off and on before, and so I wasn't really keen on, other than those little solar power pack things you get. I think the NRA was giving them out one time and stuff. So, but yeah, that's really wise. I mean, and I understand this. The conversation we didn't talk about, hey, buy 6,000 rounds of ammunition, right? We didn't talk about guns so much. But I think all these little things, definitely when we look at, keeping down our anxieties and being able to focus on, taking care of our family and doing work from home or whatever we have to do, having these little things that are already staged and already ready to go. Hopefully we never needed to use them, right? Like if you buy 6,000 rounds of ammunition, hopefully you don't need to use, 6,000 rounds of ammunition, but you buy it because, you want to be ready. And same thing with these little things that we're talking about. I think it just reduces that worry that, hey, what if, it becomes summertime and everybody's using their air conditioner, and then the grid shuts down because, it overloads the power availability of power, right? So those little things, I think, gives us some peace of mind.
Emergencies can strike. I don't live in New Orleans, because if you do, you're a fool, because they get hit with hurricanes, on a regular basis. If any of you listening are from New Orleans, I'm sorry. For me personally, I'm not doing it. But no matter where you live, you aren't perfectly isolated from any potential emergency. I mean, I can tell you right here in my neighborhood where I live right now, there was some floods that we had a couple of years ago, and those floods made it so a large number of homes were destroyed, and an even larger number of homes couldn't get clean water for about a week. Emergencies can strike anywhere, and food storage. I've been through my food storage before. When I lost my job and I had no money, I ate through the food storage. I was really glad to have it then. I'm really glad to have it now. So have water, have food. I don't mean to downplay those. I know I was trying to think of some out of the box ideas to share, but when we think, again, that the firearm is the magic talisman, that nothing bad can happen to me because I have guns and ammo, we are looking at our own survival in a very narrow way. Very narrow. We've got to think more broadly. We got to think about hand-to-hand combat. We got to think about having to bug in during a natural disaster. We got to think about a lot of things. And so I encourage you to figure out where you are weakest in your ability to survive and to support your family, and make a goal to do something about that weakest point. Maybe it is the gun and the ammo. Maybe it's something else. Figure it out. And please, please, please register for our home defense conference starting on Thursday. concealedcarry.com/HDC. Thank you, Matthew, for being here with me today.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Today is our weekly giveaway. This is our Tuesday episode, and so we're going to pull our winner. A reminder, you do not need to be participating with us live to win. All you have to do is go to concealedcarry.com/podcast prize. Each week, roughly between Tuesday and Sunday, I guess between Tuesday and Monday of each week is kind of the cycle. So make sure, just set an alarm on your phone or something. And every week, go to the webpage, concealedcarry.com/podcast prize, and fill out that form and enter to win. And during our Tuesday episodes, we pull at random a person from the entered, and that person wins. So this week, Matthew, what's the prize?
The prize this week is a Legal Boundaries by State book.
So this is a $20 prize plus shipping. So normally, if you went to our site and bought this, you'd pay $24.99 with shipping for us to send this to you. This book was last updated in January of this year, so you're getting the most updated version. It's 100 pages of awesome gun law, reference material. Matthew, you ready for this action?
I am. I'm ready to go.
I was stalling, so you'd have time to log in and get ready.
I got it. You ready? You ready?
All right, here we go. The winner of this week's giveaway, the Legal Boundaries by State book, is...
All right. The winner's first name is John. The last name starts with a G. It's very short, four-letter name, and you have a hotmail.com email address. It starts with CATSUK, cats suck. And then it goes on. So
John G, who thinks that cats suck, you are the winner this week of our Legal Boundaries by State book. And what is the prize next week, Matthew?
Next week's prize, let me pull it up. Next week's prize is the concealedcarry.com concealedcarry.com targets, the reactive targets.
All right, so a pack of targets, adhesive reactive targets. We love those targets. So make sure you go and enter this week so you can be among those from whom we pick a winner next week. All right, I appreciate you being here. Until our Thursday episode, remember to train right, train often, and train safe so you can fight hard, fight fast, and fight true. For all those of you who've been with us here live on YouTube and Facebook, we appreciate you joining us today. Much appreciated. Hope you're safe. Hope you're doing well. And if you have any questions or any ideas for topics for the podcast, remember to email us, podcast@concealedcarry.com. Matthew, anything I'm neglecting to do or say?
No, you got it. You got it.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you on Thursday.